Hello, everyone. Welcome to my motel room. It's a little bit of a mess because I haven't really put it together. I don't really care. So I wanted to give a little bit of an update because I know that people are a little concerned because, I put out a pretty concerning community post yesterday, and I want to let you guys know that your donations are really being put to work right now. I really appreciate everything that I've received thus far, and I think things are going to be okay. This is not the end of Punish Felix. We are going to make it, okay? So, to explain the situation, all right. Typically, I try to keep my private life not so much on the channel because I don't really want people, you know, going up to me in real life and shit, right? I used to live in Detroit, right? The place they call the D, which is kind of homosexual, if you ask me. I grew up and was raised in Detroit, not the city proper, but Metro Detroit, and I'm from Michigan, and I've spent my whole life here, and I'm moving to the East Coast, in Massachusetts, right? That's a long drive. All right. Now I've driven this kind of drive before. Not necessarily to the East Coast, but I drove from Detroit to Montreal back. I want to say back in August. Yeah. So I drove the same vehicle that I was driving today or yesterday. To Montreal, and I did actually have car issues there, but it was mostly because I'm an idiot and I forgot to check the motor oil level before traveling, and it just was really low and it overheated. And thankfully, it didn't cause any damage or problems, and I was able to get there and go to the mountains and go back, and it was great. Right. But I decided to do this trip, which is about a little longer, but it's comparable in length, right? It's probably about an extra 150 miles. And I thought I'd be okay, right? And I got all my car stuff taken care of. I knew the tires were bad, so we got new tires. And then I knew I needed to do an oil change, so I took care of that. Typical stuff, right? And there was no indication that there was a problem with the vehicle, other than it was always kind of a lemon. It was always kind of like heaving a little bit to push, and it wasn't so bad that you thought, oh, I need to completely repair the vehicle in order to do this. But it was just, it really upset me too, because I got this vehicle because my roommate crashed and totaled my other vehicle, which was my prized Toyota Camry V6, and that thing was beautiful, right? For like just a little sedan, right? It was reliable. It was smooth. It had amazing control. Like that was my favorite car ever, and she totaled it in a DUI. So I wasn't even able to get insurance money off of it or anything, and it really pissed me off. And I had to pay out of pocket to get my Mitsubishi Lancer, which is the current car, that I call it the Shitsubishi, right? And that really pissed me off because I had to pay quite a bit of money to do that. I had to pull it out of my 401k at the time. And my employer was harassing me. A big part of the reason why I wasn't able to attend the Deleuze and Guattari conference, part of the Deleuze and Guattari camping conference, and meet major, scholars, was because my employer fucked around with me during that incident and wouldn't give me the appropriate amount of, wouldn't let me work from home. And I had to take vacation days that I was going to use for that trip for that, because fuck you. One day I will tell you all about how horrible that employer was. Literal clown show. I don't feel like doing it now. I may end up doing it soon though, because Donald Trump is probably going to make my discrimination case against them completely moot. So I'll drop the T on that in a while, but it's really crazy. But I don't want to spend all day talking about that. So, anyways, this vehicle has a bit of a negative emotional bond with me, and so to see it break down halfway through my trip just seems so in character for it. It's just I hate that stupid thing. So, anyways, what ended up happening was, so I'm driving, and everything was fine for the first 300 miles, except for one little light that went off for the tires, which I thought was weird. I checked the tires to make sure they weren't flat, but they weren't flat, and the light went on, turned off after a little while. So I was like, that's strange. So then I drove through Ohio, and Ohio sucks. Like, you can smell the chemicals in the air. I don't understand people who say they can't smell the chemicals. Ohio smells like chemicals. It's awful. I fucking hate Ohio. And then drove a little through Pennsylvania, where the gas prices are really high. And then I drove through New York. And I was driving through New York, and I had to pull over to fill my gas and take a leak because I've been drinking coffee all day for this long ass trip. So I'm peeing every hour basically, and so this is kind of funny. I pull over and I go to this gas station in New York, and they're like, "Hey, do you want me to dispense the gas for you?" And I'm like, "What? Is this one of those states where you have to like dispense the gas? Like what?" And they're like, "No, man, you're on the reservation." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And then I had like the whitest moment of all time, and I looked around me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, all this Native American imagery, it all makes sense." So I was like, "Okay, all right." So I filled my car, right? And there they happened to have a dispensary, and I was like, okay. I'm a bit of a weed addict, I'll admit that. So I went in there, and it turns out, because it's a different government, the reservation doesn't charge taxes on weed, which is awesome. Oh my god, I was able to just give this guy a 20 and get my weed. It was fucking great. So I'm driving a little longer, and then I go past Buffalo, right? And then I have to take another leak. So I go to the rest stop or whatever, take my piss, come back to my vehicle, and I start it, and it's like, hey, the battery light goes off. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And that's a lot more concerning than the tire, because, the tire, you can just keep filling the pressure as it goes down if it's a little leak. But the battery is a bit more of a concern. It's not the end of the world, but it is a bit of a concern. So I was nervous, but I've driven with cars with unreliable batteries before. Typically, the issue is with starting them. I know that other functionalities are limited, but it's tricky, right? So, anyways, I started to head out, and within a mile, my car started to overheat. I was like, wait, what the fuck, right? So I'm thinking, okay, this happened when I was in Ontario. Maybe I can make this work, right? So I had to hobble this damn thing, which took about an hour from the rest stop, where I had to stop on the side of the road, to the next exit, which happened to be a little town called Batavia, right? And so I managed to squeeze this thing to a mechanic, and the mechanic took a look at it, right? The oil was fine, the coolant was fine, but what was not fine was the transmission. He looked at the codes. He's like, "This is a transmission code. I'm not experienced with transmissions. The only place in town I trust with transmissions is this place." And he went to go check the fluid just in case it was low. Nah, it wasn't low, bro. It was black and goopy. Now, I'm going to explain this. I'm not a car person, so maybe I'm wrong about this. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But your transmission is a very complicated piece of technology in your vehicle. It's that thing that looks like a sigil, right? If you've ever seen like people tear apart the cars and you see all the weird holes and lines and shit. And what those holes are used for is for a fluid dynamic system that allows for the changing and transfer of a set of planetary gears that are used with their gear ratios to time the like the cycle of the engine, right? And this is used so you can have different power levels and different speeds and stuff. So like, if you don't drive, if you don't drive and you're not familiar with driving, you have different gears that you put your car in. You may have heard of a manual and an automatic transmission. A manual transmission, you have to do all the transmission stuff yourself. You have to pay attention to your vehicle speed and stuff. And an automatic transmission does that all for you, right? And automatic transmissions are very complicated pieces of hardware, right? And as a result, transmission failure is an extremely expensive fix, right? It can be thousands of dollars because they have to tear apart this very delicate and complicated piece of hardware with many moving parts, right? And it's just, yeah. So when I heard that, my fucking heart just crushed because I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere with everything that I own, and now you're telling me that my car is just dead. Right. So I took it to the transmission place. The tow was crazy expensive because this is a tiny little town. Right. So the tow was like $225. Like, I shit you not. It was for like 3 miles and it was $225. Like, what the fuck? Right. And then, not so I got the car towed to the transmission shop, but guess what, it turns out the transmission shop doesn't open until Monday, and guess where I need to be on Monday to sign leasing paperwork, so I don't got time for that. So the good news is that I do have a plan. The plan is just to scrap the vehicle and to use a rental to get to do the rest of the trip. And that's where your money's going. And I'm really happy that everybody has pitched in a decent amount of money to help me out with this. I really appreciate every donation, even the little ones help. So, everybody's really coming in, helping me out with this. And I really appreciate the support. And I just want everybody to know this is not the end of me. It's not the end of Punish Felix. Once I get home, I'll be setting up my computer and I'll start working on my next project, along with, my real life stuff, finding a job, all that stuff. So, yeah. Thank you for your continuous support, and thank you for helping me with this dire situation. And I'll be uploading more shortly. Thank you. Have a good day.